गाइस, स्वागत है आप सबका मेरे चैनल सुनो कहानी में, जहां हम पढ़ रहे थे रेड फ्लैग्स इन द रिश्तास बाय राधिका अग्रवाल। तो इसके 3 चैप्टर मैंने ऑलरेडी अपलोड कर दिए हैं, सो यू कैन गो एंड वॉच देम। टुडे वी आर गोइंग टू रीड 4th चैप्टर, द काम बिफोर द स्टॉर्म। Unpopular opinion, Monday is the best day of the week. I know. Most people prefer the rare end of the week, but not me. Weekends are unpredictable with no boss, deadlines, or 8-hour shifts defining them. There are too many ways in which those 2 days can go. I could meet a guy for dinner on Friday, fall in love over a main course, seal the deal by dessert, and take a spontaneous trip to Bali for the rest of the weekend. Or I could binge watch 4 seasons of Outlander, only to decide that the fifth is not worth my time. On Fridays, I was always overcome with a sense of uncertainty. Would I end up comparing the world of or avoiding the shower for the next 2 days? Mondays, on the other hand, were solid. I could count on them to be boring, formalic, and tremendously obvious. In fact, if you asked me now at 7 a.m. how my day would go, I would be able to tell you everything right down to the minutest details. I would snooze my alarm clock until 7:30 a.m., at which point my mother would barge into my room and glare at me. I would quickly shower, get dressed, grab my breakfast to go because my dad was waiting by the door, and follow him to his car as he grumbled about how I would gotten him late again. He would drop me off at work by 8:55 a.m. and I would run up the 2-story buildings to punch in before the clock struck 9. I would then pretend to work on the PowerPoint presentation I had already finished on Friday for the next 8 hours. I would not leave my cubicles except to get coffee and go to the washroom about 5 times each. At 4:55 p.m. I would book a cab to V's place, and by the time it was 5 p.m. I had been punching out the perfect, reliable Monday. Unfortunately, that's not quite how it went this week. My boss, Pooja, was waiting for me by my cubicles when I reached the office. She was wearing a white shirt with dramatic puffed sleeves and a grey pencil skirt. She was tapping her white Gucci sandals on the wooden floor, which was never a good sign. Even though she was well in her 40s, Pooja Ghai did not look over 30. A lot of it had to do with what she wore and how she carried herself. She took pride in being a power dresser. To be fair, pretty much everyone in this office believed in the power of fashion. It kind of came with a territory of working in men's fashion and lifestyle website like the men gender. And while I admired everyone who made the effort of the color coding their outfit and blow drying their hair so early in the morning, I simply could not join the gang. Just being sad, I could not show up in jeans and t-shirt either. I had no interest in being the office outcast, and so I chose an option that was both convenient, comfortable, and cute enough to be considered mildly stylish. Casual dress with sneakers. The fact that I looked younger than my 27 years helped, and on the most days I was left to my mind on my business, away from the office gossip and confrontations. As I would said before, today was not the unusual day, not the usual Monday. I am going to need the presentation before lunch. Ananya, Pooja said, greeting me without a smile, tapping her crystal watch. Oh, come. Oh, how come? The meeting is tomorrow. Right, I asked, throwing my handbag on my chair. I was referring to the weekly review meeting in which all the department heads got together to eat expensive snacks and blame each other for not meeting their individual targets. Pooja, who had headed the events department, considered those 2 hours a complete waste of her time. Unlike the editorial, sales, or social media teams, or team did not always have weekly updates, even whether editorial or branded took place months apart, and the build up to each one was slow. Pooja leaned on the cardboard well as I entered my teeny 6 by 6 foot workplace, her chest pressed against the edge. They are moving up the Tuesday meeting to the second half. Somebody from International is here, she said, looking me dead in the eye. Who? I asked. Some guy called David Myler. Apparently, He's Michael right hand. She said, Oh, we both knew what that meant. Every time Michael Evans, the global editorial director of TMG, sent someone for visit, our races were light on fire. And even though I had already finished the PPT in question, it would crumble under the kind of scrutiny this meeting would carry. I had have to redo it, and I had less than 4 hours to get it done. Oh, and make sure you include a slide or two about the new branded event ideas I asked you to work on, she said, pointing to my laptop as I plugged in. I want them to know we are not just rehashing annual editorials events but also introducing a lineup of big money days. I am so screwed. I would ask Ryan to help you, but he's taken a sick leave, she said, referring to the only person in the events team. I nodded at her, trying to swallow the wave of panic rising in my throat before it made itself known to outside the world. No problem. She left my side and made her way back to her office, struggling confidently in her heeled sandals. I knew I should have said something to him that I did not have any new event ideas. Nothing that international team would approve anyway, but I was not ready to see what telling the truth would cost me. Appraisals were 2 short months away, and I had been here too long and had worked too hard to let something stupid like this ruin my chances at a promotion. I had to get this done. There was no other way. Trying to think of a complete new idea was too overwhelming, so I started with easy bits. I went through each of the 15 slides, fact checking, proofreading, editing, stronger visuals, and specific sets wherever necessary. It took me around 2 hours to upgrade the presentation from a control plus to an A minus. The improvement was apparent, but I knew it would not count for much without a unique event idea. I opened my desk drawer, stuffing the pile of unstacked papers to look for approved events lineup before the year. It did not reveal anything new, just the same 5 editorial events TMG had added to its calendar over the last 3 years. I knew them by heart. Of course, the entertainment Gola Fashion Forward Sports Hour, Biz Kids, and our latest edition, the Influencer Award. I pinned the list on the board in front of me next to a Polaroid of Verinda and me. Instinctively, I reached out my phone and dialed her number. I knew she was supposed to be helping her mother out at her bridal wear boutique down in Sahapur Jat, but I hoped she would able to talk. She picked up the fourth ring. Hey, what's up? She asked. Her voice was decent. Like she had put me on a speaker. I could hear her rustling garments in the background. I'm in a dire need of inspiration, I said, my desperation seeping through the phone. I wish I could help, dude, but I'm not kind of the middle of a thing. I played the reactable ballpoint pen in my hand, clicking and unclicking as I listened to the faint sound of me shouting at someone on the other end. You okay? What's happened? What's happening? I asked when she was done. Don't ask, babe. One of mom's friend's daughter is getting married and she want us to do the wedding outfit, she said, and then added, like all of them for the entirely family. Wow, I said, that's a lot of outfit. Tell me about it. Mom is super stressed because our designer Kritika is on leave for the whole week to attend her brother's wedding, she said. I could almost hear her frothing through the phone. So many weddings, that's crazy, I said, looking up as an intern handed me an iced coffee. Generally, I did not like ordering the interns around, especially for the coffee runs, but I was running incredibly short on time today. A trip to the pantry was a waste of time, much like this phone call was turning out to be. Seriously, she said, taking the phone off his speaker. It's like wedding are all everybody cares about these days. I consoled her for a few seconds before hanging up, assuring her that we would celebrate our long unfair Mondays with a glass of wine later. Now that I was back to square one, I began scrambling in my handmade notebook. The trick I knew was to put myself in our customers' shoes. What were the men of today interested in our exciting editorial events? Already covered everything, be it music, movies, sports, business, or social media. Plus, we had a series of car launches coming up for the branded section. So, what was I missing? I got a brain freeze as I took a large sip from my iced coffee, and something from the conversation with we came back to me. Weddings are all everybody cares about. Man, too right. Verinda, you are genius, I said out loud as the coffee finally began doing its job and I felt the engine of my brain coming to life. Putting the best man idea in the PPT was a risk. I was aware of that. So when Pooja rang me on my intercom and asked me to bring my ass down to her office, I knew I had fucked up. As I walked past the line of the cubicles to her glass cabin, I just prayed for her to be in a good mood. My boss had a reputation for being moody, and in the past, I had gotten away with her far worse and had been screamed at for way less. She motioned for me to come inside, and when I knocked on her door, and I walked up to the chair in front of her desk. Knowing better than to sit, I waited for her to look at me, but her head was buried in her laptop. She did not say anything for what felt like a few million years, and the silence was so absolute that I was afraid to swell too loudly. Okay, I'm going to need you to explain this wedding thing to me, she said, finally looking up. I could not tell if she was serious or just getting on my case. I tried to read her current expression. Her smooth, tanned skin was wrinkling in the space between her eyebrows, and her jaws was set tightly. She was either angry or stressed. Neither was good, but I hoped it was the latter. I said, aware that my brain was doing that thing it did in high pressure situation where it acted it like it was completely clueless about what was going on. My phone vibrated in my hand, reminding me that I could use the presentation I had made to kick-start my thoughts process. I quickly opened my email and downloaded the attachment. So the idea came to me because all the men I knew who are my age or older or beginning to get married, or at least starting to think about it, I said. An image of Adar sitting in his blazer on sofa popped into my mind. It had been a week since his awkward visit to my house, but thinking about it still left me feeling oddly unweighed. Do you have any figures to back that up? She asked. Her face was deadpan. No, not yet, but it does not matter. Here, let me show you my Instagram, I said, taking a step forward. She leaned forward to glance at my phone as I scrolled through my feed and tapped on stories of random people. Everyone, it seems, is either getting engaged, married, or attending someone else's wedding, I said, then typed a name into the search bar of Instagram. Even influencers are sealing the deal, I said, waiting for the profile to load. Look, Harsh Khanna just announced his engagement this afternoon. Pooja took the phone from me and studied the picture of a young man with spectacular teeth smiling next to his long-term girlfriend, Deepthi. She placed the device on the table in front of her and crossed her arms. So, then, we should do something around weddings and fashion, maybe, she asked, swilling in her chair to face me. That's the thing, it can be bigger than that. How? We tie up with a wealthy, famous couple, someone like Harsh Khanna, and we convince them to let us be their best man, I said and paused, hoping for a look encouragement from my boss. What's the best man supposed to do? Organize the groom's bachelor party, she asked confused. Well, yes, that and a few other things, but we would be taking the Western concept of best man and giving it a new meaning in the Indian context. As the best man, TMG would take over all the duties of organizing and planning the wedding along with doing what we do best, creating content, I explained. So you mean like a wedding planner? She asked. Kind of, but why would not someone just hire an actual wedding planner? I thought about her question for a few moments because we would offer them so much more than just planning their big day. The editorial team would cover the whole shebang with exclusive interviews from the couple written in Humans of New York style fashion lookbook breakdown and listicle that could be applied to grooms everywhere, along with massive pile of content from their celebrity guests that would be promoted on social media. I paused to lean forward and press the next slide button on Pooja's laptop. A screenshot from last year's plan for the influencer award popped up. That's not all. Being a magazine, we can get them way better logistic deals than a regular wedding planner, like we do for the other events in our portfolio. In exchange for media coverage, we can get a hotel to sponsor the venue, an alcohol brand to cover up the bar, and some high-end designers to craft special looks for the bridal and groom. I said, took a deep breath and added, and the couple they had they had that extraordinary wedding as well as a viral social media campaign. And what would we get? She asked, her expressions still unreadable. An insane amount of content, a ton of clicks on the website, and of course a hefty fee for being the best man. Pooja shut her MacBook here, letting her fingers play the piano on its cover. Why is this the first time I am hearing about this? She asked, a hint of smiling playing on her lips. I decided to approach the question with honesty because I just thought about of it. I admitted. She laughed, lighting the tense in the room. Well, it's little half-baked, but I think it has potential. I'm going to tell the team it's work in progress. I smiled, escaped my lips, and I exhaled in relief. Good work, kid. She said, her choice of words, subtle reminder of her seniority. Sometimes when I daydreamed about the future of my career, I wondered if I would be the head of department by the time I was her age. Her age, it felt like an awful amount of time to wait for a glass cabin. I just hope it would be worth it. Oh, by the way, we need to prepare that list of sponsors for next week's car launch, Pooja said as I was turning to leave. Oh, okay. How come? I asked. The editor had a few contacts that come through. We have restaurant venue and the other bar, and the bar sponsor already, she said, picking her up laptop in its sleeve. That's fantastic, I said, not quite believing the most of my work uh, for the week to come had magically evaporated. I'll drop you in on the email threads. Just take care of the paperwork for me. Yeah, she asked as we walked out of her cabin together. Back in my cubicles, I was thrilled to finally be able to enjoy my Monday. I ate my lunch at my desk after telling Hina from the editorial team that I could not join her in cafeteria on account of some unfinished work. That visit from international is keeping everyone on their toes. Ah, she asked before leaving me alone. I had realized long ago that it was better for my professional health. If I did not have close friend in the office, in a place like this, you almost had to step on people's toes to get something done. Interdepartment classes were common, and they got way too ugly when you were friends with the other person. So I stuck to the 2 minute small talk rule. I always initiated conversation whenever I bumped into somebody in the washroom, elevator, or pantry. But I never hang out with anyone during or after work hours. It might seem like I was taking pains to be a social, but the success of my strategy was apparent if you considered my total lack of involvement in office politics. Besides, if I added up the affection everyone in the office had towards me, it might have equated to that real friends. So I was not missing out. I closed the YouTube tab as I finished eating the burger and fries I had ordered for lunch. The timestamp on my phone screen indicated that it was almost 3 p.m. 2 hours without any work or the surveillance of my boss. What a wonderful day it was turning out to be. I unlocked my phone and opened Tinder. It was time to swipe. Sometimes I worried that I was on the brink of exhausting all the single men in Delhi. I stressed about what I would do if one day I ran out of men to do go on dates with judges and well ultimately reject, and yet I could not seem to change my dating habits. It's not that I was not looking for love, because I was. I had just found a way to do it without hurting myself. I did not have any more heartbreaks left in me after the way my ex had shattered my heart the entire time we would been together. All 2 years of college he had been sleeping with other people everyone knew. All my friends who I later discovered were really only his friends had known all along, and nobody had ever bothered to tell me. The humiliation was as strong as the pain, and I could not bear it. I left college to come back home, taking my exams online after faking a medical emergency. I never went back, blocked every signal of one of those people out of my life, and tried my best to forget that any of it had ever happened. Once I was back in Delhi, I spent a lot of time healing, moping. Before I discovered Tinder, not only was great distraction, but it also allowed me to step back into the world on my own terms. By following the rules I had made my love life, I was able to steer myself away from being tempted by any of the bad apples. Like this guy Suraj, whose profile I was looking at right now. On the surface, it seemed like an attractive, charming guy. He had an athletic build and good posture. His bio was short and to the point, but if you zoomed in on his eyes, the confidence that oozed out of him bordered on narcissism. He was too good to be true. I was about to swipe left when I got a text from Pooja. Your idea is a hit. By the way, sending you those emails now. I closed the dating app, clutching my phone to my chest. I could not believe this had worked. I realized that it might end up being exactly what I needed with appraisal coming up. As I gloated, Pooja floated in my inbox with a bunch of long email threads from the sponsor for the car launch event scheduled for the coming Friday. It was going to be the first of 5 brand events we would do with this automotive brand. It was a pretty straightforward event, so there was not too much to plan. Plus, we already had the sponsor, so most of my job was already done. Once I had formally gotten them on board, all I had to do was send out a bunch of influencer invitations and get them to come to the event for free, which is easier than it sounds. Those guys love parties. The first two emails were from the restaurant owners. They were confident the space would be big enough and were ready to arrange a race this week. I wrote them asking if I could come by for a visit tomorrow afternoon. The race would not take any longer than an hour, but I was sure Pooja would not expect me to come back after it. I signed happily, already making mental plans for my half day. Maybe I could schedule a date. The third mail was a pretty standard introductory on from the bar sponsor, but something about it was not sitting well with me. It was a reputed brand, Stellar Spirits, on that had never partnered with us before. After a few moments, I realized what was bothering me. This was company Adhar had said he worked for. I read the email thrice over looking for good news. God knows what. Eventually, I began to relax. It was a big company. Working with them did not mean I would have to work with him, and that's when I saw it on top of the email message. In the CC field was the name I had been dreading I might find. सो यहाँ पे हमारा चैप्टर 4 ख़त्म होता है. आप ज़रूर कमेंट करें कि आपको ये बुक कैसी लग रही है. मतलब जहाँ तक मैंने अपलोड कर दिया, आपको ये 4 चैप्टर कैसे लग रहे हैं. फ़िलहाल मुझे तो अभी ठीक लग रहे हैं कि मतलब हर चीज़ में थोड़ा सा एक सस्पेंस एक मिल रहा है, थोड़ी सी कॉमेडी भी है. और रोम कॉम की तो अभी शुरुआत वैसे कुछ हुई नहीं है, क्योंकि अभी 4th चैप्टर में इतना कुछ दिखाया ही नहीं है, ना ही कुछ ऐसा है. बट कॉमेडी है, थोड़ा सा सस्पेंस है. हर चैप्टर में कुछ एक क्लू छोड़ के चले जा रहे हैं कि आगे अब क्या होने वाला है. सो दैट्स रीडर can't control themselves and they want to read now. So for now, goodbye, and don't forget to like, share and comment.